Okay, let's talk about section 2.2. This is still about how to solve linear equalities or equations. And this time we need to talk about the multiplication property of equality. So this is very similar to the addition property of equality, except we're doing multiplication or division. So again, think of the balance. If we multiply the weight on one side of the balance, we have to multiply the weight on the other side or we're out of balance, which is our equal sign again. So that's all this says symbolically, is that if A and B equal each other and C is a non-zero number, then if we multiply both sides of the equation by C, our two sides still equal each other. So let's look at number 4. We have x divided by 3 equals negative 2. So the x is divided by 3, so that means we need to multiply both sides of the equation by 3. So to do that, I'm going to rewrite it. We have x over 3 equals negative 2. And we need to multiply both sides of the equation by 3. When we do that, the 3's on the left-hand side cancel each other out and leave us with an x. And on the left-hand side, the right-hand side, we have negative 2 times 3, which is a negative 6. Okay, so you pause the video now and try number 5. So, one hint, remember multiplication and division work the same way as addition and subtraction. So, in number 5, we might need to use division instead of multiplication. Okay, now that you've tried this on your own, number 5, we have a negative 7x equals 63. So since the negative 7 is multiplied by the x, we have to do the opposite, which is divide by a negative 7. And so when we do that, the negative 7's cancel each other out on the left-hand side, leaving us with an x. And we have 63 over a negative 7, which, let's see, 63 is 9 times 7. And we have a 7 in the denominator. So the 7's cancel, and that leaves us with an x equals a negative 9. So hopefully that's what you got for this. Now, let's look at number 6. So in number 6, it looks like we're going to have to use the addition property and the multiplication property of equality. So we have 3/4 times x minus 5 equals 10. The first thing we need to do is get the term that has the variable in it by itself. So that means we need to add 5 to both sides of the equation. So when we do that, we get, let's see, the 5's cancel out on the left-hand side, leaving us with 3/4 x equaling 15. Now, this 3/4 is like multiplying by 3 and dividing by 4. So the easiest thing for us to do to get rid of it is to multiply by its reciprocal. And of course, if we do that to one side, we have to do it to the other side. And remember, anything that's a whole number, like the 15, has a 1 in its denominator. So what happens? On the left-hand side, since we're multiplying, the 4's cancel and the 3's cancel, leaving us with a plain old x. On the right-hand side, we have 15, which is 5 times 3 over 1, times the 4 times 3. And so the 3's cancel each other out. And we're left with x equals 5 times 4. I should say, remember that 3 in the denominator becomes a 1. So 5 times 4 is 20. 1 times 1 is 1. But remember, anything with a 1 in the denominator, we don't have to write the 1 in the denominator. So x is 20. So now, of course, you should pause the video and you should try number 7 on your own. Okay. Hopefully you've tried it on your own. Let's check your answer. So again, we have 15 minus 2/3 x equals 11. We need to get the term with the x in it on one side of the equation by itself, which means we need to move the 15 over by subtracting 15 from both sides of the equation. So the 15's cancel and leave us with a negative 2/3 x equals 11 minus 15 is a negative 4. Now the same thing applies here. We need to multiply by the reciprocal of this fraction. So we need to multiply by a negative 3/2 and multiply the other side of the equation by a negative 3/2. And remember that negative 4 is over a 1. So what happens? The negatives cancel, so the negatives 3 go away, the 2's go away. And since we have 2 negatives, those cancel each other out. So x equals, on the other side, okay, 4 is negative 2 times 2 over 1, and we have times a negative 3 over 2. One of those 2's in the numerator cancels with a 2 in the denominator, and that leaves us with x equals, let's see, we have negative 2 times a negative 3, which is a positive 6, over 1 times 1 is 1, or x just equals 6. And that concludes the multiplication property of equality and section 2.2. The next video will be section 2.3.